We are live.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Talking Far, Far Away with me, the host, the Scotsman, Scott Inch, and across the pond from me, 5 hours behind, is none other than Mr. Robin Vogt. Mr. Robin Vogt, how's the things going this evening?
Not too bad. You said 5 hours behind. I feel like sometimes I'm 5 hours behind on my sleep. I need to really work on maybe getting a My Pillow or something, and then end up wearing a blue shirt and having the cross on, and maybe getting some sleep at some point. Who knows? You never know in this world.
Indeed, who knows? But also, you are off on holiday, so you're allowed to stay up, sleep in, do this, do that.
Yeah.
The normal things.
It's normal things. Will wait to be seen, but at the same time, it's still a nice time to take a break for a little bit. We get to do some great stuff like work on the Podcast Network website, which has been awesome, and talk some Star Wars with the folks here.
I know, so let's get started.
Yeah.
So this past couple of days, I believe it was Wednesday, let's just jump straight into it.
Yep.
There was a report that came from Collider that said that the Star Wars movie, because of the performance of Solo and the reaction of Last Jedi, that they were putting all the standalone stories on hold. And then the report came out from ABC saying that wasn't true. So me and Rob are going to discuss this because it's starting to have a negative effect. We're getting people saying this, we're getting people saying that, and this is just going to cause a bigger uproar than with the fans as it already is. So Robin, let's get started.
Yeah, number one, and what really bothers me about all this, Scott, and everybody who's listening, is that, we get a report out there from ABC that says one thing. And obviously, when we're talking about ABC, we're talking about the parent company of Disney. ABC is owned by Disney. It is their news network. It is their content. So if they're going to release something surrounding Lucasfilm, it's pretty authentic and it makes sense. That's just coming from me. They have the sources inside, Scott. It obviously it makes sense that they are the ones reporting on it. But what I don't enjoy seeing is when I go on social media after an authentic report is put out there and all these other networks are going out and they're doing their own little spin on it and they're trying to dig deeper into something that probably is not there and they can't put their finger on right now. And just stop, because it just gets to be way too much. My feed, here at Brick City Blockade, we don't just focus on our own stuff, guys. I'm not somebody who just sits here and listens to Brick City stuff or just watches all of our content. No, I'm out there looking at Making Star Wars, who's done a great job of being positive, giving great content focused around the positivity on Solo. Star Wars Newsnet, which at times, there are things within, I feel like, the media that we work with. Star Wars Newsnet is a great aggregate of news. There are so many great news aggregates out there. And then there are some that kind of sit behind the wall and they just kind of peer over it at times and say, okay, what more can I do to this to try to break through the wall? And it gets a little bit frustrating. And especially when it comes to this report that Lucasfilm wants to put aside some of the standalone films, which is the speculation piece, to focus on redirecting their mission. I just don't understand why you would put out 50 different reports around one core concept, but take it 50 different directions. It just doesn't make any sense, and it hurts the fandom, Scott.
It certainly does. I mean, there's all these websites are reporting it. Some of them are doing it just for clickbait, which is really annoying. And we're not doing this for clickbait. We're doing this as a discussion.
Not at all. You're right.
And I'm tired of it. I mean, I've seen it come up on my feed. I've seen it come from websites like comicbook.com, comic book movies, some Star Wars related websites, Variety and all that. They're going with what was reported on Wednesday, and then obviously the ABC thing came out last night. I'm trying to think because it might have been during the night when I was over here.
Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah, and they're saying no, these haven't been put on the back burner, that they're still working on it. And it's like, I can understand why the person who brought the first story the other day he's been hearing things, but I'm curious to know where he heard that from. How does he
Yeah.
know that? It could have been from somebody who in Lucasfilm who works in the admin department that could have said it. But I
Well, it's not
mean,
good if it's getting out there either, Scott. It's not good if suddenly some of these media members are able to contact somebody at Lucasfilm and they're able to put in scoops. What I'm more concerned about is not Lucasfilm and the future of the films right now. I'm worried about somebody talking on the inside. That's what I'm
yeah,
worried about.
yeah. I mean, that's damaging enough as it is.
Yes.
I mean, how many times have stuff like that has been released? Like, I'm sure I can't rattle my brain right now, but there has been stuff like that where it's came out. I mean, let's go back to when, for example, when about 10 years ago, when the Wolverine movie, the first one, with Hugh Jackman, came out, that got leaked. Somebody got hell for that.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, so like that's something bigger because that's a full movie coming out, even though the special effects weren't finished. But that was coming out when the movie wasn't even out yet, so that's damaging. But yeah, don't do this. Just don't do it. Because, you know, there has been a lot of debate about Star Wars solo movies because, funny, Solo didn't underperform. But these movies, the first three, Episode 8, Episode 7, and Rogue One, have made $4 billion overall. Disney has made their money back from buying Lucasfilm back in 2012. And also, you have all the merchandise, all the books, the comics. You have the game that's going to come out next year. Even though Battlefront hasn't been what everybody thought it was going to be, I've kind of dropped off as that. And Rebels has done so well for these guys, so well. I mean, I've been on about it before at a celebration 2 years ago. Rebels was the highlight that came out, and everybody loved Rebels.
Yeah.
This whole thing about, you know, Lucasfilm definitely putting the back burner on the solo movies. I think that's stupid. I want to see more solo movies, even though we're getting the Rian Johnson trilogy, which I think the fandom is split over that. But then that's different because he's not constrained to use characters that he didn't establish in Episode 7.
Yeah. That's exactly what Rian wants to do. You said it right there, Scott. It's so important that we do give Rian Johnson. And what did he do with The Last Jedi? I love seeing on social media Pablo Hidalgo. Yeah, you know what? Let's redo The Last Jedi. Let's put out a new trailer. They're kind of like picking on the negative Nancys within the Star Wars community, which I think is fantastic. Because guess what? Rian Johnson does deserve to do this trilogy. I'm sick and tired of hearing people saying, well, you know what? He screwed up on The Last Jedi. Let's get rid of this trilogy. No, stop it. There are a lot of producers and directors out there that really screw up on their first film and get more chances down the road. All right? It happens, guys. It's not anything new. And Rian Johnson, number one, you deserve to have this trilogy because I feel like the people that Lucasfilm is bringing on, Scott, make sense. They make sense for Star Wars. And just, if we're going to treat Ron Howard like we have with Solo, yes, did it underperform compared to what people prospected? Yes. But Ron Howard gave us something that we could sit back and enjoy. And that's all we want. And it's a simple formula as stop picking on Kathleen Kennedy. Stop getting on Bob Iger and saying, well, he should have foresaw this happening. Stop it. Just stop.
That annoys me as well right now. It's the fact that everybody's going after Kathleen Kennedy. It's like, stop that. She's the one that's kind of overseen everything. Has she got an idea? I don't know. Maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But like, she has got. To me, she's doing fine. I don't see what the problem is.
No, there isn't. There's nothing there.
No, there's not, and it's really starting to really hack me off. I'm not going to say who, but there was a commentator online on YouTube who went through 5 points of why Kathleen Kennedy needs to lead the franchise. That annoyed me. And then there was this report about a week or two ago where like there's rumours that she might be stepping down the autumn. Well, because of Last Jedi and Solo. Like, as I said, Last Jedi made over a billion. It made its money back. Fair enough, it's divisive. I mean, some of us in the network, we've got our opinions on it. Of
course.
We've got our issues with that. It's still a good movie. I personally have issues with it. And it's not a bad movie. Not as bad as episode 2, but that's a different story.
That's a whole other story.
But she has ushered in this new era, and she's very passionate. I've seen her in person myself. She's very passionate about the franchise. She knows where she wants to take it. And also, she does have to answer to Bob Iger. He's a clever man. He's a very smart man. I would not blame him for anything. Fair enough, there's a bit here and there, but he's not the overall blame. He knows what he's doing. He's a very, very smart man. And I just don't like seeing people attack her. Fair enough, people do have that right, but it's when they start doing stupid stuff with memes or this or that, it just goes a bit too far.
Do you think Bob Iger really needs the 45th president of the United States attacking him at the same time as the fandom attacking him? I mean, seriously, it's quite ridiculous that he has to answer not only to Donald Trump on social media, but then he has to deal with the Negative Nancy boycott Star Wars account. And it's like, stop it. Do you want Star Wars or not? That's my message to these fans. Do you want it or not? Because it could easily go away, and then suddenly there's going to be much more complaining. Oh, how did this happen? That's what I'm concerned about in the long run, is that, yes, there's something called constructive criticism. Mm-hmm. There are some out there, and we've seen them, and we're friends with them, and we support those who really sit down and break down what they didn't like about something. But when you follow it as bandwagoners, that becomes much more hurtful. And like I said, nobody needs the 45th president of the United States and a bunch of these boycott Solo and boycott Star Wars people going at them when they're trying to give you something that you truly enjoy and can use escapism to bring yourself into that galaxy far, far away. It's like, wake up. Seriously.
I can't agree with you anymore. But also, let's not forget, Bob Iger has, if it wasn't for him, Star Wars, there'd be no more Star Wars movies. Even though George Lucas said he had an idea, there would have been no more Star Wars movies. Again, I've said this before, read how Star Wars Culture Universe, you'll get your answer why Bob Iger is such a great guy and such an intelligent guy. I'll just repeat it quite quickly. He went to Lucas, asked to buy it. Lucas said no because it wasn't ready, didn't feel responsible. Lucas basically then got things together and sold it for $4 billion because he had the right, but by the time he had ready to sell, he had everything in place. So
yeah,
Bob Iger, if it wasn't for Bob Iger asking George Lucas to sell Star Wars and Lucasfilm to him, you wouldn't have had the Star Wars movies because George Lucas wasn't really going to do anything. He was quite happy to leave it to get ripped apart by Robot Chicken, by Family Guy, who just turned out to a kind of spoof.
Yeah, and Scott, I think another important part of this conversation is, of course, we talk about the fandom, but I even sometimes, with everything coming out, and our good friend Ken Knapsack recently on Collider Jedi Council actually broke this down, he is not necessarily worried about what's going on with the films itself, the directors, and everything else. I love it. He said recently that he's actually a little bit more worried about the business side. And I can understand that to a certain aspect because, yes, Disney's making their money. I totally agree with that. I think some people are blind to that. But he brought it up more to the point of maybe there is some stuff happening on the inside. But what drives me nuts is that if there is stuff happening on the inside, that's no place for the media to be right now. That's something that they need to take care of. And to speculate based on what interpersonal relationships are happening in a business is not a place for Star Wars fans to be. Unless you are a accredited business owner and know what it's like to deal with money and having to pay people, put out a product that people will enjoy. Unless you've experienced that, and I think podcasters, to a certain extent, I'm talking to all podcasts, we kind of have a purpose with it. Sometimes, of course, obviously, we don't get paid to do this. We're out here to spread our message. But it is still a business for many of us, and it's still the format of, okay, we need to cater our content to people that listen to us, but we can't give them every little bit of what's happening here at the Podcast Network. Yeah. We're not going to tell them the interpersonal relationships that we're having because that's none of their business. And when it comes to the business side of Star Wars, let's not speculate on it. Let's let it happen and let it play itself out. And I think that that's all comes with one word: respect.
Yeah, I think they do. I do think they earn deserve a respect. They've earned it. Um, you're right about the business side. I don't want to know too much about the business side because
Yeah,
I want to be surprised about the business.
exactly.
There is so much. I mean, we've got so much coming from Star Wars soon. We'll probably all get it at Celebration next year, but we're going to get some nice stuff told to us.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the business side. Whatever the problems are in the business at Lucasfilm and Disney, you're right. The media need to leave that alone because, we're in a bad, I'm going to say this, we're in a bad day and age right now where everybody needs to know everything. And
Yes,
I
you're right.
do feel that internet, social media are responsible for it. I mean,
Mhm.
you can see it all over online. And to me, uh, and I've said it to you, I've said it to a few guys on network that it's killing my enthusiasm for anything geek or fandom because of the
Yeah.
amount of stuff like this. It's just like I'm not unhappy anymore about it because it's down. It puts people down, and this needs to stop. It just needs to stop. I'd rather they just get the media would just start keeping away from the business side and report about the positive stuff, not the negative stuff. There's just too much out now.
There's a little thing called original content that a
Yeah.
lot of these people really built their networks on and built their news outlets on, and evergreen content, which is something that I think more people need to start exploring because when you individualize your content to the people who listen to you, it's really important as Scott chokes and maybe possibly is crying. I don't blame him. There's a lot happening. Uh,
Sorry. Continue.
but anyway, as I'm quietly panicking here, I'm worried about Scott. Um,
I'm alive.
he's alive. That's all that matters. Um, no, but seriously, I think that there's a certain way that the media could possibly turn what they are doing right now. I mean, everybody deserves a second chance, obviously. I feel like the media does deserve a second chance here, but they haven't shown the possibility of that coming. And it's really, really unfortunate because I feel like a lot of these news outlets do provide great content. And
Yeah.
if they can just pull themselves away from the clickbaitiness that currently exists in social media and on websites, I think we would be a lot better off as a fandom. And
Well,
if we can do it, we can
so
do
I
it.
was going to jump on your point there about clickbait. I mean, there's an article the other day about Disney buying Fox, and
Yes.
Fox accepted their offer. And when you read it, that wasn't what in it was. Again, it was one website, and they said accepted. Everybody was like, "Yay!" But people didn't actually read it. They just accepted the bid. They didn't overall approve the bid or say we're taking this bid. It was just we've accepted the offers came in. We're waiting to review any other offers coming before Fox decide to go to the board and say who shall we take. I think people are getting a bit. What's the word I'm looking for? Ahead of themselves.
They're jumping the gun, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically it. And it's just like, stop doing clickbait. I'm sick and tired of it.
Yeah, it's a very simple formula, and I think one of the big things coming out of this conversation, Scott, is that here at the podcast network specifically, one of the things we actually pledged to each other. All right, I will give you a little bit of the inside politics here at the BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network because I think it does fit this conversation. One of the things that we always say to each other here, to all you listeners, this is what we say: absolutely no clickbait at BrickCityBlockade.com podcast network. Everything that we put out, our conversations, everything that we do is non-clickbaity. We don't link it to any other sites. It is purely our content. And if we find out some kind of piece of news, it comes straight from us, and we have like 50 to 75 different pieces of authentication to make sure that it is authentic. What's driving me nuts, Scott, is that compared to that, a lot of these other people are posting it out there without their credits and then update their site as it goes with credits. And to me, it's like, unless you get the story right the first time, it's not worth continuing to update. We live in a day of social media where people need their answer now. If you keep posting updates to an article, it's kind of like, oh, but you changed what you said before. So what is truthful that is currently still on there? And that can become very dangerous. And it's not something we do here at Brick City Blockade. And I've seen people who have been able to do it very successfully. And bravo to them, because they just keep adding more sources and authenticating their information at the right level. But there are people, and I think you listed a couple names, where we see them on Facebook and we see them on social media. They post updates, and it's like, but you just turn the past information around to fit a more clickbaity article. And that could be dangerous.
Yeah, it's like a 24 news cycle where the same stories get repeated an hour later, and there's like one tiny little bit of information that kind of changes it. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. I know we're living in this day and age where geekdom is the big thing that's more accepted now, but it needs to stop. I remember the days when we didn't have this. We didn't have the internet. We just had to like go with a magazine like SFX or something, or your Star Wars Monthly magazine. That was where you got your news, unless it was in a newspaper.
Yeah, Star Wars Monthly. I remember picking that up at the local bookseller in downtown Exeter, and boy, that was one of those ones that when you picked it up, if they were interviewing somebody or they were going to break some news on Star Wars, it was coming out in that. And I love the celebration preview that they used to have of the Star Wars Monthly magazine, because it would get you pumped up for Star Wars Celebration. Even though you weren't going, you get to say, oh, Ray Park's going to be there. Oh, Anthony Daniels is going to be there. Carrie Fisher is going to be there. And it was like, wow, what a fantastic, fantastic piece of media news. And I almost wonder if that's the direction we're going to have to start heading towards at some point. Is it's great that we're podcasters, but it's almost like we need that one piece of authentication. Just one thing that we can go to and say, this is the piece of news from Star Wars. And I feel like Lucasfilm, when we see them put out, authenticated news releases and stuff, that's basically our Star Wars Monthly for us. Is it's authenticated. They put it out on Twitter. They announced it on YouTube. They gave us something. And it's sad to see that sometimes people within the media take that and they say, well, it's not true. And that gets a little frustrating. And then they try to turn it around and do a bunch of other stuff. We could have this conversation for hours, Scott, but it's becoming a concern of mine, and it's becoming a norm. And that's a sad thing to look at. And I encourage every single podcast network, podcaster, news outlet, change your ways if you can, because there are so many out there that you can go across social media. I'm talking about Making Star Wars. I'm talking about all those fantastic other podcasts that exist out there that are doing the media right. And you have to listen and follow. And Brick City Blockade, I'm going to toot my own horn. Make sure that you're following what the format that makes the most sense and keeps positivity in the community, Scott. That's what's so big here.
Yeah, we just want to keep it positive. We don't want negative. We just want to keep things light, fun, bunnies. I think I know where I'm going with that, but I'm not going to go any further.
It's something about Easter. I don't know where you're going with it necessarily, but
I don't know where I was going with that, but I was just trying to be like fluffy and happy, and in a field dancing about, like what do you call Anakin and Padme dancing in not dancing, but playing about in episode 2. There we go. And references to episode 2. Jim will love that.
It's like the Jedi senior prom, except one Jedi decides that being at the prom is not cool.
Nah, just slaughtering children. He seems to think that's cool.
That's a very, very dangerous path to take, especially at the prom. And hopefully, the big thing here, Scott, and why I named this episode Hyperdrive Failure is because I feel like this is kind of like my final point here. I feel like, as we saw in Solo, it was our first time seeing the Millennium Falcon not making the jump into hyperspace right away, and it being pulled into the maw. And I kind of feel like the fandom's at the point of, we hit that real high with going into The Last Jedi with the hyperdrive, and we got it, the flux was all in motion, and then suddenly, and it's starting to be pulled into the maw, and we're in that part of the fandom right now where we're slowly being pulled in, and I hope we see that sudden jump into hyperspace with this fandom into a positive mindset.
I think we will. I think we'll see it with episode 9. And I'm just going to close off with one thought as well. Obviously, I retweeted about fandom. Obviously, I retweeted this video that started going around with some idiot that decided to say how much doesn't like Daisy Ridley and start breaking the toys. That is just pure evil of fandom.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't do anything like that on the network. We like Daisy Ridley. She's a fantastic actress. If you haven't seen her in Murder on the Orient Express,
Oh my god, she's so good in that.
she is. She is so good. That just shows how good she is. You know, it wasn't Ray. It was, I can't remember the character's name, but she just turned. I didn't even think about it being Ray.
No.
So there you go. And the guy who did that, he's vile, he's disgusting, and he's just a crybaby. And I don't want to see anything like that. That's just not right at all.
Well said, Scott. Well said.
So it's the time of that show, and I keep forgetting to do this. It's a little thing we like to call
plug time.
Plug time. So, Mr. Robin Vogt, where can they find you across the spectre of social media?
They can find me over on Twitter at Mr. Vote Tweets and over on Instagram at The Official Vote. Please make sure to follow Brick City Blockade on Twitter at Brick City SWPC for this continuing conversation and all the positivity here at the network. I'm going to quickly shout out Neil Positivity on Twitter. I'm going to shout out Amy Wishman Nayland. I'm going to shout out Gary Clarkson, and I'm also going to shout out a very good friend of ours who has been very positive across social media. That's right. I'm talking about Ryan Bullock. He's been absolutely fantastic sharing out Brick City Blockade. Mike Moriarty. I got so many names. I'm just going to keep it at that. But you guys know who you are. You're lovely ladies out there who follow the podcast network and keep the positivity rolling. So thank you. Make sure to check us out on Instagram at Brick City Blockade. Also, www.brickcityblockade.com. The new look brickcityblockade.com. There's so many different features over there right now, and we're continuing to update it as we go. So we'll be looking forward to seeing you over there, continuing this conversation into the near future. TeePublic, pick up one of our awesome t-shirts, and please make sure to do all the awesome listening, subscribing on iHeartRadio, on Stitcher right now, and over on iTunes as well.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. Mr. Inch, let's get rid of all that a lot talk, and let's hear where people can find you across social media.
You could find me on that little thing called Twitter at Scottish85 or on Facebook at Scottish. And for myself and for Robin, as we always say, may the force be with you.
Always. And remember, be positive.
Indeed.
And stay focused.
Indeed.
Focus.
Focus. Focus.
Huh? Did it stop?
No.
I hit the stop broadcast button.
It's still saying live.
You sure?
Yeah, saying live on my end.
Hold on. Let me try again. How about now?
No, it's still saying live.
What? I keep hitting stop broadcast. Why isn't it?
It's still saying live.